President Buhari on Monday, May 4th, 2020, eased the lockdown in Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja, and declared a 2-week lockdown in Kano due to the massive death cases rising from the state, and also declared a nationwide overnight curfew from 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. This means all movement will be prohibited during this period except for essential services, and all precautionary measures must be adhered to strictly. As at 4th May, Nigeria has recorded 2,802 confirmed cases, discharging 417, death 93. 2 weeks after easing the lockdown, Nigeria cases rose to over 6,000 confirmed cases, with nearly 2,000 recovered cases and roughly 190 deaths, which is 2 times higher than what we recorded before the ease of the lockdown. Good day and welcome to your favorite political and current affairs program, Christians in Politics. I am Smart Simon, and we shall be looking at the aftermath of the ease of lockdown in Nigeria. This program is reaching you from the studios of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria Television, ACNNTV. I have with me to discuss this topic Joshua Audu Ghana, PhD student, Security and Strategic Studies, Nasarawa State University, KEFI. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And joining me via Skype is Dr. Las Ude Eze, Public Health Expert and the National Vice Chairman, Southeast Alliance for New Nigeria. You're welcome, sir. Let me start from the studio. What can you say is the outcome of the ease of lockdown since it started?
Thank you very much. Having the announcement come out saying they should ease the lockdown proceedings of the federal government for these 3 essential states where they had tracked certain people who had contacted the virus, I want to say within the space that the lifespan of the virus, if you are infected, had been 14 days, and we had this lockdown for well over 21 days. So anyone who had contracted or contacted the virus would have been clear. That's the wheat is now separated from the chaff, so to speak. And then you can isolate that group of people and treat them, and hopefully we have lesser deaths. And once those are clear, then we can lift the lockdown. So even with the president extending the lockdown, it was to ensure that within the testing kits they had, the health workers, everyone that were in the front lines of the fight against COVID-19, they had gone around most of the communities to try and sieve this wheat from the chaff and to attend to them medically. Now, the aftermath, I would like to say, we saw during the lockdown certain challenges that shouldn't have been so. For instance, certain prime buildings in the FCT caught fire. The Treasury House, and 1 or 2 others, I think Corporate Affairs Commission. So it shows that it is the human that manages the building that keeps it from not catching fire when it comes to work. So certain appliances that had to be left on because they are operating sensitive appliances in offices must have overgone their heat rate and all that, and then it triggered a fire. So you see, they return to that. We don't have such issues as we did then. And then, even in some of these states, armed robbery increased. We thought with the lockdown, because of no movement, armed robbers will not operate anymore. But they were still, in fact, it was on the increase at some point. So easing the lockdown has made people to go about their daily activities that they can fend for themselves. Unfortunately, in our country, like the countries we compare ourselves with, they have a proper database, and having had successful housing programs,
Yeah.
everyone has an address. So if they want to intervene to send food items, they want to send medical supplies, they want to send financial support, it's easy on a platform to send it out to everyone, and everyone can confirm we have received it, because there's a feedback model from the technology they've put in place. But we don't have that here.
Which means that Nigeria need to do something on that.
Yes, so as well addressed Abuja is, there's some places that are not properly addressed. So you can't pinpoint people to even get your palliatives to them, and to even have records to say, we have gone round the key areas and most of our hungry, challenged people have been fed. Those that need financial resources they have received through their BVN or through their accounts X amount, and the data is there to show. The banks can confirm, the people that receive it can confirm. I've been looking for one person to show me the alert from government that he received this, and I've no one. I'm even asking the person to come, that for my little resources I'll add for you, and no one has come forward. So apart from the show on TV where someone takes cash, and that one is only to buff up their political capital, is not really responding to pandemic, which is an emergency situation. So that's some of the things we have seen, the aftermath. Finally, I would just say, because of those problems, it was better for people to be able to move in a disciplined manner, having warned them of the ways COVID-19 could spread. As long as you are avoiding such things, you have no problem. You can go about your business. I'm a farmer by profession. In my farm, we must drive our tractors, we must weed our things together. But now we can encourage them that you give this man some space, take a row, another one takes a row, and you don't start at the same time. You start 5 minutes earlier, and we sequence it. So there's the physical distancing and not social distancing, which I would like to correct on this program, will be enforced. And then you know that we can still produce our food and feed our people and meet our targets in our economy. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, I must say, for your contributions. I could also observe that during the sharing of the palliative, giving cash to the people, the Minister for Humanitarian and Disaster Management, I hope I'm right, went with cash.
Yes.
And then she put it on the table and giving it out to the people.
Yes.
Which so many people queries that idea, that how are you going to ensure that records are properly kept for all of that? Because we know in Nigeria, once cash is involved, anything is possible. So we want to say that the lockdown, we should continue to ease this lockdown gradually, provided that people are able to observe all the precautionary measures so that we can contact the disease. Still with you, do you think the government did the right thing by easing the lockdown, particularly in Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja?
Yes. I would like to say yes, the government did the right thing. The pressures were becoming too much. Even those that were seemingly those that could earn, because of no movement, no activity, no economic activity, their income streams too were pressed. You couldn't, apart from going to an ATM, you couldn't even have banking services. So even if you're someone that was expecting income from abroad, from your relatives that Nigerians in diaspora that support people here because they know family members too might be affected by this, everything was hindered. So the system was under pressure. But the good part of it was that it showed the test of our financial technology, that's fintech, that more of our physical services went to online services. So those who wanted to remain moribund, in their old ways, that they only go physically, had to learn how to go about financial resources online or through technology. So payment systems and all that, those were things that we've tested that system, that it's strong and robust to carry the country.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay.
What is your take on the opening of marketplaces, banks, offices, but the religious places like churches and mosques are all shut down?
Okay. It's still in the bid for what they call social distancing, and I want to correct that. I do not call it social distancing, because the very definition of a human being is a social being. You know, he must interact with his environment, with people, with things to do. So that's normal. So a human is a social being. So when you say social distancing, they're saying he can still interact, but then avoid physical close contact for the droplets, which they say is part of how this thing spreads.
Yeah.
Okay, so it spreads through that. So it's physical distancing, not social distance. As I've been able to communicate with you over the last week through the social media. So we have been distanced. Those are things that you can call social distancing. But going about my work and doing other things is physical distancing.
Okay.
That we should do. Now, the government has institutions that this pandemic should even help invigorate. For instance, you don't expect the health workers to only attend to you're expecting them to attend to sick people and also to preach the gospel against COVID-19. The preaching of the gospel against COVID-19 should be done by the National Retention Agency. It already has a structure to every nook and cranny in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Every local government has an NOA office, and so send out the materials. So orientation officers orientate the people in their own dialects and languages how to protect themselves in physical distancing. But then they're leaving it to only the health sector. And they are already fully engaged in making sure people don't die and people return to full vitality in their health. So we must delegate this assignment to necessary institutions already set up. Also, like NIPRID, the Pharmaceutical Research Institute that we have, also must be involved in helping to get clinical solutions, bringing the right brains under that umbrella to research more and more, and working with the academia and the research institutions, health research institutions, to bring about our own solutions.
Yes. Because
we have seen from the trend that this COVID-19 virus mutates. I wanted to use that. I didn't want to say adapts to different variants. Yeah. It mutates. So that means if you had a drug that could treat it in a certain location, using that same drug here might not work because it has mutated to something else.
Yes.
So we need to find the ones that our isolation centers test kits have seen and get it to the labs of these people and let them study and find solutions to address it for Nigerians. And that's the responsibility of government. So we have the institutions, we have the trained staff, we have experienced staff, we have the structure is to mobilize them to implement and play their delegated roles accordingly. You're expecting a security agencies to still preach the gospel? No, they can't preach the gospel against COVID-19. It's to ensure that security of life and property remains sane enough for people to live together. So that is the first thing, preaching physical distancing. Go about your business, but distance of the meters, 2 meters as specified, should be encouraged. Then the thing they call face masks is wrong also. It's called a breath mask because it's covering your nose and your mouth. And that's where droplets or intake, that's the outtake or the intake of this virus can go through. In Ebola's days, it was from the sweat from your body. So don't touch any other human being. This is there has to be distancing, and then it's a breath mask to cover droplets from your mouth coming out, period. Face masks in growing up is for people who want to disguise and usually want to do evil things. An armed robber wants to go into so there's no facial recognition. He wears a mask, so you don't know his face. So you can, we can still recognize people through this. So it's a breath mask. So if you are getting the description of the defense mechanisms against COVID-19, even the descriptions of the things we're using wrong, then we might be getting the fight against COVID-19 wrong altogether.
Okay.
So we must, the orientation people, the health workers must go back to the drawing board. It's breath masks that covers nose and mouth where the exchange of this virus emanates from.
Yes.
Physical distancing between human bodies, and then the aftermath of this lockdown will not be a problem.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, are you saying that the government was right in shutting down churches and mosques,
now,
but allowing marketplaces, schools? No,
schools are not open.
Schools are not open. School and church and mosque were all shut down, but market was opened. And which one again? Banks were also shut down at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is the decision of the government right?
Yes. It's right in the sense that the ones they permitted have shown that they could control and practice certain level of distancing.
I was in the market. You could imagine how the market was.
The market one totally has failed. But because there's no, like I started earlier, there's no proper addressing of houses in Nigeria, in these places, to locate the proper nutrition package to each home. It cannot be enforced. It cannot be enforced. If either you outsource it to ShopRite, for instance, I say, ShopRite, you know, you have some data of all your customers in Lekki area, for instance, in Lagos. Okay? ShopRite might be able to go to the housing areas that have proper address. But it's not everywhere in Lekki Peninsula. So
the decision of the government is right?
Yes, it's right, because how do you have hungry people that were ready to steal? I heard of an armed robbery attack in a place, and the people say, no, we don't want, we know you don't have money, there has been lockdown. Just open your fridge and bring all your food stuff. We are hungry. So those armed robbers were interesting.
Yeah.
They had their arms, they refused to shoot, just bring food. And tell your wife to cook this for us. When they were at their field, they said, oh, till another time, and they left. So it's
all right,
it's
thank you so much. Dr. Lass, if you can hear me, that is a divination of social distancing and face masks here by Joshua. Do you agree with what he said? As against normal social distancing, he said it should be physical distancing. And he said it is not face mask, but breath masks. What can you say to that? Sorry. All right, because of network challenges, we will continue here. Once he's back online, we will get to you. Now, Joshua, let us continue our discussion. It's getting interesting. Now, what can you say on the school feeding program that is ongoing despite the lockdown in schools?
Okay. I know the government and state governments are preparing a protocol for the schools to reopen. And many of our school children that were on the feeding program are from homes who are not well to do. And because of this proper address system to bring food to your doorstep for all these children being a challenge, they could gather the data because they are seated in school under a school headmistress or headmaster or what have you. So, for instance, they say they are used to feeding 1,000 kids. Now, they won't want to, because we're all human, they won't want to say 200 kids are from well-to-do home.
Yeah.
And 800 are not. And we want to just send it to the 800 people. So they have to devise a model where these children will not be malnourished because the schools were shut down. they're entitled, and there was already a budget planned for the school year to the end of the school session, that they will be fed their 2 or 3 square meals, as the case may be. I think it's mostly breakfast and lunch. Then mostly the after school hours, the dinner is handled by the parents. So if they can still make sure that these children are well nourished, because education is not for a hungered mind. There has to be a balanced diet so that all the body functions are working properly to receive information, process information, and you are now an enlightened person to use what you've learned to affect society. So it's good that, and it's because it's children, that's the future generation. There's the sentiment is there that if there's a way of getting their weekly or daily staple foods to them, for that generation to be well managed over a period of time, we encouraged, and I'll say yes, it was a good decision. Where it is a bad decision is where this food is now, because of the address problem, is not reaching. Are they handing it to the schools, and the schools know how to get it to the children? Or do the children gather at the schools in a physical distancing manner to pick their daily meals and go back home? Is the implementation that no one knows about.
This is why Nigerians are querying about
so there's
how to get to these kids.
So that's where the question mark is, that if it is not being properly done, then there's mismanagement. And if they say they expended so much, when so much has not reached them, then it's becoming an issue of fraud or discrepancy in giving back to our children. The decision for any government to ensure that the next generation is properly fed is a good decision. Whether intellectually or sentimentally, good decision. How it's implemented and ensured that it gets to them is where we're suspicious about.
All right, thank you so much. Now, Dr. Lars, we've been trying to reach you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you so much. What is your take on Nigerians adhering to the laid down rules of this period of lockdown ease?
Yes, adherence to these rules have been mixed. In FCT in Abuja here within the city center, you see a lot of persons going out with masks, and you also observe people observing physical distancing. But we also observe, even within the same Abuja, that there are a lot of places that many of these are not being adhered to, and even in other parts of the country. What I think is missing is communication and information. Effective communication has not been very effective because whatever regulations, guidelines you're doing is for the people, and it must be effectively communicated using all communication channels, which will include the mainstream media. It will also include the social media. It will include the traditional communication channels, even within communities, in the language they understand, and using channels that they trust, using religious leaders who they trust, using community leaders, traditional rulers, and also, politicians that are trustworthy. So I don't think the communication was very effective, and that kind of allowed for lots of doubts. It allowed for a lot of conspiracy theories, and even till now, you still have a lot of Nigerians who think that this COVID whole discourse is a hoax, which is quite unfortunate. So I think that's where we missed it. We need to communicate better than we are doing. And it's not a primary responsibility of just one institution. Yes, National Orientation Agency, they'll be missing. Maybe they are not being funded adequately to perform their roles. I've not seen much from the National Orientation Agency in the course of this pandemic. But beyond the National Orientation Agency, every local government is also supposed to play a key role in sensitizing, working closely with community-based organizations, the civil society needs to be engaged better in this process. And also everybody needs to, one way or the other, take responsibility. So what we have is that in some cases, this communication was led by some politicians who probably were not even trusted by the people in the first place. Maybe they have deceived the people in the past. So, and because the people are hearing this for the first time from them, they also took it with a pinch of salt. You know, that's not to say we don't have politicians that are trusted. There are also a number of them who are reputable, who has integrity, and they are trusted by the people. So I think we need to do better in terms of communications. That will help us to see more adherence. But there are also a number of factors that determine whether people adhere to this or not. The economic issues. Sometimes people have to choose between hunger and between adhering to some of these guidelines. And instead of accepting the message and adhering to it, they choose to dismiss it. So we shouldn't make excuse for anybody though. We should all take personal responsibility. We should all play our part to make these things work. But we need to communicate very efficiently. And even for people who are going into isolation centers, we are hearing different vibes from those who are coming out, which also speaks to, speak to lack of effective communication. So there should be much more communication. They understand better why they are there, and also know the message that needs to get out, so as not to fuel some of the inaccurate messages that are being circulated.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Las, for your opinion. Now, let me get back to Joshua here in the studio. What is your take on the happenings in Rivers?
Okay, first of all, every governor is the chief security officer of his state. And Rivers is a unique matter because the governor is a lawyer. He understands the law. I mean, he went to law school, he's called to the bar. And then his wife is on the bench. She's the Justice of the Federal Republic. So he has full knowledge of the legal provision within our country for him to enforce a lockdown protocol in protecting people, lives and property. But I heard his response. His response was that some of his officials went to a specific local government where this hotel was located. And in telling them that, please, for this time, there's a lockdown, hotel services are part of those that should be totally shut down. In response, the people there dealt with the officers of government that went to preach the gospel of COVID-19.
Yes.
And some of them got shot, some of them were beaten nearly to death, and they had to run for their lives. And they were hospitalized. And when the reports came back, the governor learned that was someone that's even a member of his party, in the structure of the party, in the party structure of that local government.
Yes.
That should have been one of the disciples propagating the wishes of a sitting governor from his party to his people and showing example as a leader. But no, he was showing a barbaric response to government officials. So there might be other things on the line that are between them, which is not our concern. What is at the front line was officials went there and got injured.
Yeah.
And they're still being hospitalized and being treated. So in response to that, he went out in a more forceful manner, like in the days where the military had to do the Python dance in certain states. It's a show of force. So he went out in that model, show of force, that I'm enforcing this, and if you want to beat officials, I'm among the officials, beat me and let's see what will happen.
Yeah.
Though it looks very brash, a thing for someone of that level, as the chief executive officer of a state to do, it was in response to make the families of the officials who have risked their life in the front lines of this pandemic to show that what I heard happened to you, I'm now in the field myself. So I'm not using other people to die for me. I'm willing as king or as chief executive to die myself. Let me go and do this enforcement. What I saw wrong in the whole process was, number one, the Governor Wike didn't wear a mask. His security aides were wearing their masks. They were wearing gloves. But he was busy talking, was not wearing gloves. He was not wearing masks. He will be pointing at you, walking close, and he was not observing the physical distancing measures. So he's not a Superman that he is free. His colleagues, Governor of Kaduna, has just recovered from it. Governor of Bauchi had it and recovered. So he's not free from catching COVID. So even if you were so annoyed, there can be more decorum to the way you do your enforcement in response. Of course, the families will know that you love them, that you even went out daily and you responded to where these people were attacked. Yes, you shouldn't have brought the building down since it's an investment, but he could have locked it down and punished the person maybe for a year and charge it to court. And then for breaking the law, proper judicial law passing would have gone on that person. So that's what I saw wrong with the whole process.
But this is not the first time governors in Nigeria are demolishing hotels.
Yes.
It happened in Edo State. It happened in Kaduna. Yes. A governor demolishing the house of one of the politicians. I really do not have the details of what transpired.
Yes, I remember those stories.
But
yes.
all that happened.
Yes.
Why is Rivers State's matter different from all these other ones?
All right, you see, the other ones happened, and it was clear, it was political vendetta, abuse of power. I've got into office where you built your house, he checked the master plan, like specifically with Kaduna. We saw that when he was Minister of FCT, he made sure what was not in the master plan was destroyed.
Yeah.
So we knew him for trying to destroy disorder and bring proper order back. So some of the lands where some people had built were government reserved areas. Some were for schools. But because of former governments that dishonored the master plan, people built their private buildings there. And then maybe during the political year, they were against each other in different parties or against their principles. And then this one is fortunate to win and say, I'll show you I'm governor. So it was personal vendetta. But then if he had legitimate grounds because they were built either on lands that were specified for green areas or specified for schools or specified for hospitals, but is now for a private residence. So he did that, went to court, got this and knocked those places down. Same with Edo State. I remember the person that did it during Edo State time is now the chairman of one of the parties. The person that is doing it in Kaduna State was once FCT minister. So they had precedence in these behaviors. And then I think Governor Wike is also learning from precedence also.
All right, thank you so much. But you see, Nigeria will always be lawless to do some things. And when authority react, that is when they will tell the authority, you should have gone to court. Honestly, I am against lawlessness.
Yes, human beings always take the law.
It was not right that these people came to tell you that this is what is going on. This place should not be in operation. But you decided to...
Nearly kill them. Nearly killed them.
I saw their pictures on how all that happened, and I said it serves them right what the governor did. Although this is a matter that should have gone to court, but I think that the governor said I will serve this as an example for everyone to see that you cannot do anything and get away with it. All right, we'll go on. We'll be back in a moment after this time out.
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils, and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking, or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health, and WHO.
Welcome back, viewers. We want to continue our discussion. Now, Joshua, how will you score our security agencies in making sure people adhere to the ban of interstate travel during this period?
They have done very well.
Very well, you said.
Very well.
Okay.
Because we've seen videos of trailers carrying Almajiri people to the east, and they have stopped them and managed it and sent them back. Okay? And we've seen other states, even in the north, sending Almajiris who were sent back to the places where they were coming from. So for them to be, Almajiri people are tough to account for. For you to be able to nip them in the bud and send all of them back, it's not now, these are on our physical roads where we know there are passages. But we can't police everywhere. If there are bush routes that people still move around,
I will give you an example.
You can't stop it. If there are water routes that people can canoe to other locations, you can't really stop. The Navy cannot watch over all our waters. Yeah.
Now, when you say the security agencies have done very well, I have my reservations.
Very good.
Maybe they have done well, but I don't know. Reason being that I have people who have traveled from Abuja to Port Harcourt during the lockdown.
Okay.
And the question was, how did they manage to travel from here to Port Harcourt with all the security agencies on the way? Honestly, the person conferred on me that the drivers were doing the settlement and they traveled from here down to Port Harcourt without any challenge on the road. That is why I said this very well. I doubt much, although with what we've seen in social media, with all that you analyze, well, we give them, what percentage will you give them there?
Okay. Within the space of what they have to do their work, you can give them 70%. Okay? Because from the ones we see, they are properly kitted. In fact, some states had mobile courts. You are charged to court at the location you are caught because there's a mobile court judicial officer there and all those kind of things. So enforcement has been going on.
Okay, all right.
But like what you're saying now is the case of the usual bribery and corruption that we see on our roads. And I'm coming to the real crux of the matter. We have been clamoring for better policing. The amount of capacity we have of policemen cannot police 200 million Nigerians. And even if we want to train them every other day, and we're already doing physical distancing, all the training that they needs close distancing. So it's even becoming more tough to train new officers and deploy them. And you can't just train them under one day. It takes a whole 4 or 5 years to go through the academy or through the police training facilities, and before you are now posted to someone to go and do work. So everything within its own challenge they have done. So from the roads, the legitimate routes into these places, they have done
very well. Okay.
Very well.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Lass, if you can hear me, how will you score the security agencies in making sure people adhere to the ban in interstate travel during this period?
Scoring the security agents in this case will be quite subjective because there are pockets of success, there are also pockets of failures. I may not have all the data across the country to kind of objectively say this is how they've performed. But
Okay.
I want to express that while they may have done their best in some places, because within the security agents, you have very professional persons. You also have some bad eggs. I found it very disappointing that over 20 Nigerians were killed by law enforcement agents, according to the data from the National Human Rights Commission. As at the time when COVID had just killed 11 Nigerians, law enforcement agents killed up to 20 Nigerians, and that's highly unacceptable and disappointing. So with that indication, when such loss of lives that were clearly avoidable, I will find it difficult to give a pass mark, to the security agents. But that's not to say that they have not recorded success in a whole lot of areas. But personally, for me, the fact that 20 Nigerians or even more than that were killed, mostly young people, in the course of enforcing lockdowns, kind of rubbishes many other successes they may have achieved during the period. That's my own subjective assessment.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Las. Now, what is your advice to the government and to Nigerians?
Thank you very much. The government of Nigeria at every level, the local government, the state, and the federal level, I have to commend the efforts where they've done well, and also to mention that we are where we are because of what I regard as criminal neglect of the health sector for many years. So when we have a situation where most public officers, have fun leaving the country to go and seek healthcare elsewhere, allowing the generality of Nigerians to die from highly preventable causes is unacceptable. So I just believe that maybe COVID-19 will make us to change our attitude towards health, to make more investments in health, and also make the right investments, and also ensure that the resources we deploy are efficiently utilized. So, and I'm speaking to governments at all levels, especially local and state level, where many of these actions happen. So we need to strengthen our primary healthcare centers. We need to make our hospital work for our people, and this is not by mouth. We need to be very sincere and get people who know how to do this to make sure that it happens for all of us. COVID-19 is here, but it's not the only one. Other diseases are still here, and COVID is stretching our health system. So there must be that political will at every level to make our hospital work. And to Nigerian people, let's, as citizens, hold our government much more accountable. Let's not just take anything that comes. Let's push them further. Let's demand and insist that our health sector should work for all of us. We shouldn't just be praying and be doing nothing. In addition to our prayers, which is very important, that we pray according to our faith, but we should also follow it with work by ensuring that our elected officers do the job we send them to do, and also make our hospital work for every one of us, irrespective of who we are, where we reside, and the economic status of every Nigerian.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Las. And I must have to thank you for sharing your thought with us today. We are most grateful. Now, we want to continue in the studio.
Yes, sir.
Joshua, what is your take on Nigeria adhering to the laid down rules for this period of lockdown ease?
The level of adherence in our city space has been very good. In the community level, because of the lifestyle, the style of community housing with no plans, and I mean the villages, the pattern in which we do our huts and all that, it's not adhered to in a proper manner. And that's why I was emphasizing on orientation by the National Orientation Agency that has national orientation officers that can speak in the languages in those communities to encourage them on physical distancing and all. So it has not been adhered to at the community level, at the village level as such, but more in the city centers. We could see plenty pictures by the media, the mainline media, showing how everything was locked down and shut down. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, do you think government has done well on orientation and awareness, creating awareness for COVID-19? Have they done well?
At the national level, they have done well. In the mainline media, very well. On social media, very well. But in the communities where we depend on posters, proper communication with public address systems, and what are we? All that down there, they have not done well. So those people just see officers come and they use the principle of COVID-19. The foundation of COVID-19 is fear. So they leverage on the fear and say, don't you know government says you should stay inside, there's a curfew. So people just run inside and they don't even know what is happening. At that level. Those people are human beings created by God like all of us. They need to have right information, proper indoctrination of what to do. And if they practice this, the parents in every home ensure that their children hear these things, then it will be, the government would have done very well. So like Doc was saying, the local government chairman or the local government councils have a role to play in making sure that this same information, and Nigeria has over 300 and something languages, and then tribes over 700 and something. So it's tough to transcribe this to everyone's language to their understanding. Not everyone understands English. I must appreciate that.
All right, thank you so much. Now, with Nigeria as giant of Africa, do you think we have been able to do enough on testing and getting our vaccines to cope this pandemic before us?
We have not done well. We are too dependent on the foreign world. That is whatever they resolve or they solve or they provide for their people, we are still designed to be a dumping ground, a consumption nation. We have the best intellects. If you don't trust our intellects in the research institutions, in the labs, in our university system, what of the Nigerians in diaspora who are part of the front lines of these things in their countries? Because they have been public health. We have experts everywhere. Harness this knowledge and let's design the one for Nigeria. Where the popular one going around now is the Madagascar herbal one.
Medicine, yes.
Herbal medicine. And the president took upon it. That is, he trusts his herbal institutions in their country, that they put something together that has treated it to a level where it doesn't have any problem, okay? That it doesn't have any problem, and then we can now they have started using it and they have seen results. Now, is that same world system that is attacking them that no, don't share your herbal solution with the world? It's not clinically tested. It's not WHO approved, and all the fights. But his own is, I want my citizens to be healthy, to be well, to be cured, and I can't sit and wait to be a dumping ground for you to find a solution for your people. Then list us as number 100 and something on the list of people you show concern. No, as long as we're not number one on that list, we must. If we do our own, we'll be number one on our list for ourselves, and then we can export to our neighboring countries that we have solved it.
That is it.
Madagascar has already led it. Why shouldn't have Nigeria be the one showing the way forward in that aspect? So we're too dependent on what the WHO on what the world system or what the international community has to say. They're the doyen and the laws on COVID-19, which is wrong. We have our unique problems. We have empower our institutions to bring out. NIPRID is there every other day. Researchers are there. Pharmacology, chemistry, and all that. So engage them. Fund them. Bring a solution in 30 days. Gentlemen, I'm telling you, will see people that will go into the spirit realm and download what is the solution to this problem.
All right. Thank you so much. I guess that is your advice to the government.
Yes, I think the brains to fight against this. If we have, it's not foreigners that are in the front line of the fight against COVID-19. It's our normal health sector people that went to nursing school, medical school. So why would you trust the institutions that brought them out to go to the front lines to fight? Keep empowering them. Bring me solution in 30 days. You'll see solutions that can now go into clinical testing, and then NAFDAC and all the regulatory commissions will certify and start human testing.
Exactly.
And let's move on.
All right, thank you so much. Now,
Thank you, sir.
what is your advice to Nigerians generally?
We should be law abiding. The Bible already has given us that law. Obey all those in authority. Give respect to all those in authority. If they have said this, is for good reasons. It's because they want the best for us. It's not that they want the best for themselves. So let's obey. Let's trust them enough that they will direct us in the right path so that we'll overcome this pandemic. But then, we want that even as we obey, we want response. Obedience has response. So the government must show love to us also by allowing our ideas, allowing our contributions, allowing our challenges and our complaints to be properly addressed and done in. So we work together. Once we have that working together relationship, it's a marriage that can work. But when someone just wants to be Lord overall and not be concerned about who is the partner in that marriage, then you're going to have reactions. I mean, if you treat your wife badly throughout a marriage as a Lord, with the day she reacts, you will not like your life. But if you carry her along continuously, sometimes you even relax and say, don't you know you are supposed to do this? She will be helping you to do the things that you haven't forgotten to do. That's what the populace should even be helping government to do in making sure that we're safe from COVID-19.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, one last one. This is Christians in politics. Should the church be opened?
Yes, the church should be opened.
What are the measures that we can put in place to
the
ensure that our people are safe?
Yes, the government has protocols that they're laying down now for schools to open. My suggestion is they should also have laid down protocols for churches and mosques to open. Good thing, most of our churches, pastors drive membership. And by driving membership, they have proper records of their members by the grace of God. So we know the physical distancing policy. We can do that in our church auditoriums. And I'll talk for the Anglican Church. Each vicar has a registration. He can schedule 5 services on Sunday. It's a day set aside for worship. The same way in mosques, Friday is set aside for worship. So the imam can say, X amount of people, 1 to 2 prayer. And you'll see the timetable on the walls of the mosque you attend. You'll get your text messages that you're allowed to come and worship on Friday between 3 and 4. And the protocol people or your ushers people or they will number the seats, you're on seat 4. So just walk into the auditorium, go to mat 4 and do your prayers. The next person will be in mat 1. If it's in church, it's 5 per seat, proper distancing. So you're on 7 a.m. service, you're on 10 a.m. service, you're on 1 p.m. service, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and then because there's a curfew by 8, you finish that one and let people go home. So everyone gets and knows that every Sunday I'm scheduled for a service with proper distancing. For instance, in the Anglican Church, in our communion, we shared from the same cup, the way our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ did. When Ebola came, we couldn't continue in sharing from the same cup. We now decided to have small cups and give everyone to take of their own and dispose in the baskets. And we could still practice our communion. So we have already shown that we're ready to practice law and order in our church settings. So for COVID-19, if it's the distancing, we can do it. If it's scheduling people, we have proper data systems, I'm sure, in the Anglican Church because of our tithing, our records for tithing, our records for vestry meetings, for voting, for membership, for Sunday school. We have everything already. Our vicars and our priests, every other day we're graduating priests from schools of theology. Everyone will be properly indoctrinated and trained. Schedule your parishioners to come at certain times and observe the physical distancing, the breath masks procedure, sanitizers for the hands, and all the other things that will keep it out of it. Because we must maintain the sanity of the human mind and soul. People are going through mental torture. The fear of COVID-19 is already an abuse of the human life. It's going against the normal norm as a social being. So you need people who are ministers of the gospel, who can minister to the spiritual needs of people. So fear is replaced with faith, and they can practice a disciplined lifestyle moving forward.
All right.
So allow the churches and the mosques to go back, but proper protocols must be adhered to.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bro Joshua Audu Ghana, we are most grateful to you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Joshua Ghana is a PhD student of security and strategy of the Nasarawa State University.
Yes.
You're always here for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And
It's
we
a
thank
pleasure.
Dr. Laus, who has earlier shared his opinion with us. That is it. Please, let's everybody ensure that this period we're careful. Stay at home. Observe all the rules and regulations. Wash your hands where you need to, and every other thing that you need to do. Next week is another program. Until then, bye from me.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and viewers and does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Advent Cable Network Nigeria, ACNN TV.